The following is a production of Horse Player Now in conjunction with the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. The Keeneland Look Ahead podcast begins in 60 seconds.
This is the mecca of horse racing. This is where it all begins.
This is going to be an incredible year. We can't wait to get the spring meet going.
A last to first run in the Bluegrass La Cara.
Welcome you to the April Selected Horses and Racing Age Sale.
This is the premier horse racing sale.
You have a chance to make 5, 10, 100x.
It is Fall Stars weekend.
Ted Noffe to win the Clayford Rhetorical to win.
Welcome to the Keeneland Championship sale. I feel like it was meant to be.
The World Championship event. World-class racehorse Flightline has won the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Keeneland always brings top-notch horses.
Come here and sell and bring $3.7 million doesn't feel real.
Welcome in and welcome back, everyone. Jeremy Plonk here for the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast from Horse Player Now. Great to be with you as week number 2, day 3 of 15, about to get set for us on Wednesday. First post will be 1 o'clock for an 8-race program. Week 2 at the Keeneland meet, quite a bit different than week 1. As we see in the spring and the fall, very heavy on stakes races on opening weekend. We've got a good stakes lineup. We'll talk about some of that coming up over the course of the next 5 racing days. Back-to-back 5-day racing weeks coming up at Keeneland after the 2-day holiday opening weekend. Hope you had a great Easter with you and yours. Let's get back into some handicapping and talk some Keeneland racing for week number 2. Now, last year during week number 2, it looked a lot like week number 1 because remember with the cancellations and the weather, we started on a Sunday and raced consecutively through the following week. I think it was 8 straight racing days, something like that, at Keeneland last year. But there was a definitive break in the entries of the first 3 days versus the next 5 days. And traditionally, week 2 is different than week 1. What we saw last year in week 2 of the meet were a lot of bombs. 4 different horses paid $50 or more, a couple huge numbers. So maybe we'll get a little bit off the reservation, if you will, here this week with some of the horses that can score at some big prices. People kind of get locked into what they thought they saw opening weekend, and then we get more into a little bit of the blue collar action in week number 2, and that continues throughout weeks 3 and 4 at Keeneland. Last year, week 2, I thought it was interesting. Peter Urton had a couple winners and a trainer based in California with some horses stabled in Kentucky, but it seemed like he had some horses aimed for the second week of the meet. Maybe we'll keep an eye on Peter Urton's horses here during week number 2. But week number 1 recap, if you caught the first 2 days of racing, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you cashed some winners on Friday and Saturday last week. Of course, the big race, the Toyota Bluegrass, won by further ado. He looked a lot like he did last year when he won by 20 in his maiden breaker here at Keeneland. He came back and won by 11. Just a total romp in the Bluegrass Stakes. Reagan Donner didn't show up at all after being flat-footed at the start. A young horse, an experienced horse with the 3 career starts, didn't get things his way. He didn't fire, and when he didn't fire, there really wasn't kind of a second-pronged attack to get Further Ado in any kind of danger. And Further Ado got back to that really good 2-year-old form, ran a huge race, and now he heads to the Kentucky Derby as one of the favorites. Will he be able to keep his jockey, Irad Ortiz? That'll be very interesting to see. Irad Ortiz Jr., of course, also the jockey of Renegade, who won the Arkansas Derby. So Ortiz has quite a decision to make. He also won the Jeff Ruby on Full Effort for Brad Cox. So 3 Brad Cox winners when you add in Commandment, the winner of the Fountain of Youth. Of course, he already gave up on Commandment to ride Renegade when it came to the Florida Derby. Flavian Pratt picked up the ride on Commandment. But in Kentucky Derby musical jockeys, if you will, Flavian Pratt's going to get off of the Florida Derby winner to ride the Louisiana Derby winner, Emerging Market in the Kentucky Derby, according to Daily Racing Form. So Brad Cox has a horse who won the Fountain of Youth in the Florida Derby, and he down to his 3rd string jockey, perhaps, on Commandment. Very interesting things as we get closer to the Kentucky Derby. We'll talk plenty more about that. Speaking of Irad Ortiz Jr., the only jockey to win 3 races during the first 2 days of racing, 6 other jockeys doubled up. As for the trainers, Brad Cox got off to a good start with 3 wins, couple big. In fact, I think all 3. In fact, there were all 3 stakes wins, major stakes wins on the Saturday program. Couple wins on the week for Brian Lynch, for Wesley Ward, Rusty Arnold. Arnold had a couple twirling candies, went on the grass. And then the other one was Ian Wilkes with a pair of winners early in the meet. So good start for those folks. Coming up this week at Keeneland, I want to remind you, if you're in a handicapping contest, the Grade 1 Gamble is Saturday. That's the big handicapping contest at Keeneland, but you can play at a lot of the ADWs around the country as well online. So if you can't make it to Keeneland to play in that handicapping tournament, check it out. Go to the Keeneland website, look up the Grade 1 Gamble, the big handicapping tournament, if you want to get involved in that. Favorites only won 29-30% during opening week at Keeneland, 6 for 21. The average winner was 9-2 odds. We talked about it here before. 9-2 is the perfect average. If you look at racing all around the country, average price of a winner, 9-2 odds. That's what you're looking for, even Steven. So it was good betting opening for 2 days of racing. We'll see if that continues. 7 winners came via Gulfstream Park, 4 from the fairgrounds opening weekend. So if you're looking where the horses had some success from, that will change a little bit here, obviously, as we get away from some of those stakes and allowance-laden kind of programs like we had the first 2 days. Now we're going to see more fairgrounds, certainly more Turfway. Last year during week number 2 of the meet, there were 10 winners from Gulfstream, 9 from Turfway, 9 from fairgrounds. So very evenly distributed. And you're going to see the fairgrounds and Turfway horses have more success as we get into weeks 2, 3, and 4 here at Keeneland. Certainly the Gulfstream horses are always going to be prevalent in the turf races. Let's talk about the action coming up on Thursday, or Wednesday, I should say. First day of the racing week, our first Wednesday to talk about. So we got to get used to the daily schedule. 8-race program for you. And when we get an 8-race card, here's the way it lines up at Keeneland with our snapshot of the program. The 8-race program begins with a pick 5 in race number 1. Then the pick 4 for the early section will start in race 2. That's all normal. Pick 6 gets underway in race 3 on just an 8-race card. The late pick 5 now will start in race number 4 with just 5 races remaining on the card. So now you're going to start to see a big overlap in races 4 and 5. Race 5 has the pick 4 starting for the late version. So races 4 and 5 are part of the early pick 4, the early pick 5, the pick 6. These are what I like to call swing races. Put your extra handicapping emphasis into races 4 and 5. On days when you love horses in races 4 and 5 on these 8-race cards, you really want to be attacking the multi-race wagers because you're not using a lot of combinations in those legs that are multiple in terms of their usefulness. Race 4 can be used in many different wagers. Race 5 can be used in many different wagers with the overlap. If you have strong opinions in races 4 and 5, these are the days you want to get after the multi-race wagers. The new $3 turf pick, or the $3 pick 3, not turf, but the straight $3 pick 3, the final 3 races on the card, that'll be races 6, 7, and 8. And we'll wrap things up with the Toyota Super High 5 race. No Keeneland turf pick 3, only 2 turf races scheduled on this 8-race card. Do let you know if you have looked ahead in the past performances, the entries, Thursday's card back to having a Keeneland turf pick 3. So Wednesday will be the only day this week without a Keeneland turf pick 3. We've got the Super High 5 though in race number 8. No carryovers to talk about on the program. So let's get to some handicapping here as we begin things off in race number 1. 2-year-olds are in action in race number 1, and you know these are Wesley Ward races, right? Wesley Ward won the first 2-year-old race in the meet on opening day. No big surprise. He scratched the favorite in there, Wagley. Wagley comes back and runs here on Wednesday, and will try to get a victory here and follow up on Suspicion's victory was the horse for Wesley Ward that stayed in that opening day race. Now, if you were on the podcast and you watched for opening day, we talked about a horse running that day. His name was Jojo Dude. Jojo Dude was running. He ended up running 5th for Ben Colebrook in that opening day race. But we said when we went to the workout videos at Keeneland.com, which are new this year, free workout videos that you can watch and evaluate, we fell in love with a filly who was working in company with Jojo Dude that day, and we said, keep an eye out for Frontline Fury. We didn't have to wait too long. She's right back in this race on Wednesday. She worked tremendously against Jojo Dude. Now, that runner ran 5th in the career debut, so maybe you take that with a grain of salt. But I liked what I saw from her. We didn't like Jojo Dude so much based on the work. We love Frontline Fury. She's in here in race number 1, and I'm going to try to do what's almost the impossible, it seems. I'm going to try to beat Wesley Ward in the opener. I'm going to take Frontline Fury as my top pick. As I show you the handicapper selectors box from Keeneland.com, you can get this in a nice printable version, a PDF you can download. You can print this out. Scott Hazelton, myself, Tom Leach, Kim Nelson with our handicapping selections each and every day at Keeneland.com here on the handicapper selectors box. I've got Frontline Fury on top. That's a horse who's worked underneath by the other handicappers. But again, we talked about why we like this one. We love the work, big work for trainer Ben Colebrook. So we're going to take Frontline Fury on top. Wagley was the filly who scratched from the debut. She's got a good looking tab. She scratched for this spot in a race where Wesley Ward won it anyway with his colt. He was able to save the filly for this 2-year-old filly race. He gets Joel Rosario to ride. 96 races in these 2-year-old baby dashes we've had in spring meets in the past. Now, Wesley Ward with 53 of the 96 winners. So we're going right into the Ward, phalanx here with the 6 Wagley going to be very tough. The other Wesley Ward's got just the one in this particular spot. The other horse to keep an eye on is Smoke, working pretty well here from Florida, from Arundel Farm. Brendan Walsh trains. This is the first baby dash that we've seen Brendan Walsh enter a horse in here at Keeneland. These 2-year-old 4.5 furlong races are not typical for Brendan Walsh, but Arundel Farm in South Florida, if you follow Gulfstream or Calder going back in the day, really strong with the 2-year-old Florida breds. This breeding operation, wins a lot of races in the Florida Stallion Stakes Series with the 2-year-olds. Now they got some horses with Brendan Walsh, and they're trying to, send a brigade up here to Keeneland to see what they can do in these 2-year-old races. I would suspect maybe they've got some runners, Smoke debuts in here. This is a really interesting 2-year-old baby dash because, again, you get the debut of Brendan Walsh coming up here with these Arundel Farm horses for the first time. They're probably well meant. Frontline Fury worked extremely well. I've been looking forward to seeing her for a week. We get to see her try it. And then Wagley, of course, for Wesley Ward. We know what he's like. You got Joel Rosario, 15 for 34 in these baby dashes when teamed up with Wesley Ward. I mean, they're just under 50% as a jockey-trainer combo. So a lot to like in this race. This is not a single kind of race for a lot of folks. And because we can think we can beat the Wesley Ward horse in here, I start right off and say this is one of my key plays of the day. Am I most confident in Frontline Fury? Not necessarily. We gave good reasons why it could be some of the others, but we know Wagley's going to get bet, right? You just know Wesley Ward is going to be 6-5, even money, 4-5, 3-5 in any of these 2-year-old races. So if you can beat this horse to start off the program, you've got a major leg up. A lot of people are going to be singling in the early pick 5 starting right here. If we can get Frontline Fury, we should get a fair win price in the 3, 4, 5-1 range would be fantastic. And start the pick 5 by beating a Wesley Ward that almost everybody else is singling. And if they're not singling the Ward, they're probably using the 7 Smoke in here for Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone. So we're looking at a potential third choice as a single, whereas if we're right, that's what makes it a key play of the day for me. Not the most confident play. This isn't like the horse who's 90% most likely to win in my mind. They're never 90%, but you get what I'm going after here. This is the best value. By knocking off the Ward, knocking off the Walsh in here, we could do some good things. So talked a lot about a 2-year-old baby dash. We really don't talk about these races in a lot of detail typically because it's usually just a concession to Wesley Ward and we move on. And I'd say these races are an ends to a means usually just to get through the early pick 4, the early pick 5 as they're typically at the front of the program. But I actually think this is one where if we can beat Ward in here, we got a shot to do some good damage early in the card. We got those overlapping races in races 4 and 5 to the early and late pick 4s and pick 5s. Let's start things off with Frontline Fury, race number 1, see what we can't pull off. Let's go to race number 2 on the program. Race number 2 starts off the early pick 4 in here, races 2 through 5. This is a race where I think there's as many as 5 contenders, 12 horses in the main body of the field. I think this is a really competitive race. Non-winners are 2 lifetime claimers in here. These races, favorites are 3 for 15, going 7 furlongs, and non-winner are 2 races at Keeneland here in the spring meet. So favorites underperform, about 20% winning favorites. A lot of the winners 9-2 to 9-1. So good betting races. And this looks like a good betting race as well with this field of 12. I'm going to go to the outside with Sully. The 12 is my top choice in here. You look across as the other handicappers take this race. Scott's also got Sully, the 12, Mischief Mania, the 11, picked on top by Kim and Tom. So 2 horses kind of dividing up the public handicappers in this particular spot. I've got the 11 pick 3rd in here, but reason I'm on the 12 in here, Sully, I like the form last time out, winning by 6 lengths after just nibbling around. I call it the handicapping angles. You try to kind of define them where you see them like repeat patterns in your handicapping career. I call this the nibbler breaks out. When a horse is just nibbling around in maiden races, a lot of seconds, a lot of thirds, and they finally break out and get a win, and they win convincingly, a lot of times they just start winning right in a row. Remember Publisher from last year's Kentucky Derby, maiden forever? When he finally put it all together this winter at Oaklawn, he's now rattled off like 3-4 in a row, including a stakes last time out. Sully's the kind of horse who really put it all together last time. The Nibbler had the breakout performance. I'm going with the 12 in here. Outside post going 7/8 of a mile. Luis Saez, we've talked about it before, tremendous percentage in these 7 furlong races. He clocks them better than anybody. The long run down the backstretch from the outside, he should be able to work out a great trip. I'll take the 12 in here, Sully at 4-1. Hopefully we're not the favorite, but certainly should be fairly well regarded in here. Average winner of these races, as we said, I believe 5-1. So we can get a fair number with a field of 12 in here. Even if you're taking a lower price, you're probably not going to get stuck with a short price. I think the favorites in this race should be pretty divided. The 11 Mischief Mania is the 7-2 morning line favorite for trainer Joe Sharp. A couple of those horses, the 12 and the 11, both coming in from Fairgrounds, as is the 4 Outline Empire. We mentioned the Fairgrounds runners with 4 winners over the first 2 days of racing here at Keeneland. So a good start for those horses at the meet. That's how I'll look at race number 2. Moving ahead now to race number 3 on the program. Second key play for me on the program is race number 3 starts the pick 6. Again, this is part of the early pick 5, the early pick 4, and we'll kick off the pick 6 in here. No carryover in the pick 6. 7 furlong spring allowance. We've had 37 of them at 7 furlongs like we have in race number 3. Favorites have underperformed at 11 for 37, and the average winner is about 6-1 odds. So the public hasn't done a very good job with these 7 furlong allowance races in spring meets over the past. So maybe we can get ourselves a bit of an upset in here. That's why it goes to one of my key plays, because number 4 Kapoor in this race is a heavy favorite, 4-5 in the morning line, but there's other speed in the race to go with the 4. Kapoor's got to go to the front. She's won wire to wire in her last 3 starts, but the 1 sudden switch is not going to give her a break from the inside, you wouldn't think. The 6 Neela's Rose wants to go. The 7 Lord I Wonder, best chances to get up near the front as well. So if we can get some competition up at the front, these races have not been easy to predict in the past. I think we got a chance for a minor upset in here with number 2, Liam in the Dust. This horse really gets a positive setup in terms of pace, turns back in distance from a route to a sprint. I'm not always wild about the turn back horses like a lot of folks are here at Keeneland, but in this particular handicapping situation, there is a lot of speed, and I think that's going to pay off for Flavian Pratt to have that extra endurance in the tank for Liam in the Dust. Laying off, turning back in distance, training pretty well in here. And if you look at the running lines for number 2, Liam in the Dust, faced Immersive, Drexel Hill, Mohima, Lacara. I mean, there's some major fillies and mares that she's run against in her career now at age 4. So Liam in the Dust going to be my top choice in here. She has not taken on older horses. All those good races were against 3-year-old fillies in restricted company last year, restricted by age or as 2-year-olds. So this will be her first time taking on older horses. Whenever that situation arises, make sure you get a fair price. I wouldn't take Liam in the Dust at a short price, but I'll take anything 7-2, 4-1, 5-1 in the morning line. We'll be very happy with. But again, favorites have underperformed, 11 for 37, well under a third. The average winner of these races, 6-1 in 7 furlong allowance races in the spring meet at Keeneland. So I'm going to take a shot to beat the 4. And again, 4-5 in the morning line. If we can beat Wesley Ward in the opener and we can beat Kapoor here, these are why they're my key plays of the day. I think we've got an alternative to Ward in the opener. I think we have a potential vulnerable favorite due to the pace and the history of these kind of races in race number 3. So even if you're getting horses that are in that 7-2, 4-1, they can play really, really, really well in the multi-race wagers. So that's why race number 3 is my second key play on this program. So let's go from the 3rd to the 4th, and we'll be halfway home on this Wednesday card. Race number 4 starts the late pick 5. And again, this is a swing race, as I like to call them. These swing races kind of go from the early part of the card to the late part of the card, all in the multi-race wager. So race number 4, again, is going to be part of the early pick 5, the early pick 4. It's going to start that late pick 5. A lot of action running through here in race number 4. Maiden claimers going 6.5 furlongs in these particular spots. This is one where... they're kind of a little bit of a crapshoot. Maiden claimers are towards, the bottom of the barrel in racing. It's early in their 3-year-old campaign. So you got a lot of lightly raced horses who are just kind of, given up on already for a claiming tag in for 50,000 in this particular spot. How we're going to handicap this one in race number 4? I think there are about 5 good options in this race. There are a lot of different ways you can go, but I'm going to give my shot in here to number 5, Fresh Out. Kenny McPeak trains. McPeak's run 11 horses in the spring maiden claimers on dirt who have come in from Oaklawn Park over the years. A lot of McPeak's horses in the winter are going to come from fairgrounds, but he's run 11 maiden claimers here in spring dirt races in the past from Oaklawn. 4 of them of the 11 have come out with a victory here in maiden claiming races at Keeneland. Fresh Out could be the next one in that line. Improved last time out. Now, it was a wet track, so maybe the horse needs a wet track to run its best races. Wouldn't take too short of a price in here, but Fresh Out, a mild pick in here for me at 5-1 in the morning line. As for the other handicappers in here, Cuvée Creed is the pick for Scott. The 7, the 6, Expecto Patronum picked on top by Tom, and the 9, Oath for Kim. We said, look, there's about 5 different options I think could win this race. I've at 5, 10, 6, 9, and 3. And if you look at the handicappers along the way, the 5, the 6, the 9 are listed. Cuvée Creed, the 7, not listed even in my top 5, and is Scott's top choice in this particular race, coming off a race at Turfway for Tom Drury. Certainly capable. This is a wide open race, basically, is what I'm trying to tell you in here. We've had these races in the past with 150 of them in maiden claiming races. Dirt sprints, 74 of the winners came out of maiden claiming races, so about half of them. 58 came out of maiden specials on the drop, and 17 were first-time starters. So pretty even distribution, but certainly the experienced horses in these maiden claimers, the way you want to lean. The 1 and the 2, both first-time starters, probably not going to get a lot of play in here, given the connections. But again, first-timers don't do too well in these maiden claiming sprints here at Keeneland. Look for the experienced horses in these particular spots, and don't be afraid of a surface change. Almost 40%, 37 of the 96 races at this particular trip have been won by horses, and this class level have been won by horses making a surface change. So if you see some horses from Turfway or coming turf to dirt in these maiden claimers, not a bad spot to take a shot on those. So decent looking group in here for the level, perhaps with some options, but to me, this is a little bit of a grab bag, and I'm going to take my shot in here with Fresh Out. Again, McPeak's had some success, 4 for 11, bringing horses from Oaklawn to spring maiden claiming dirt sprints like this at Keeneland. So we're going to take our shot, Fresh Out, in race number 4. But in terms of the multi-race wagers, again, looking at the way this sets up through the first 4, we've got upset pick in the first, we got upset pick in the third, kind of open races in races 2 and 4. So that's where you want to use your combinations. If we can pull the 2 upsets in races 1 and 3, spread a little bit in 2 and 4, we could be live to a decent, big payoff potentially, getting to race number 5 to close out the early pick 4 and the early pick 5. Race number 5 on the card is going to be our first turf race. Again, just 2 turf races on this Wednesday program at Keeneland, so no Keeneland Turf Pick 3 when we only have 2 races scheduled in the turf ranks. This is kind of a really open almost condition in here. A lot of different ways to qualify for the race, but a high-level allowance race at a mile and a 16th. It has a lot of stakes potential to it when you see the conditions written this way, and you've got a lot of ex-stakes horses as part of this, including the 2022 Bourbon Stakes winner at Keeneland, and the winner is, it's now 2026, but in the fall of 2022, this was the top 2-year-old turfer on the grounds, the favorite winning the Bourbon Stakes. And the winner is now age 6 and likes the course, and what I think is going to be a pretty wide open kind of race. That's where I've defaulted to in here, and the winner is. But some of the other handicappers did the exact same thing. Tom's got and the winner is on top as well. So we've got 2 of the 4 handicappers picking that one on top. When Tom and I agree on a horse, it's usually pretty good sign. So at 8-1 in the morning line, maybe we're in good shape with them. The winner is looking for this one to wake up back over the track. Second start off the layoff. The horse had been off a year and a half. Kind of even Steven race at Turfway, going a mile last time. We're hoping it's the course. We're hoping this horse wakes up second off the layoff. Pretty good workout here. A bullet workout March 20th at Keeneland. Over the main, now goes back to the turf where the horse has run throughout much of its career. So, and the winner is going to be the top choice in here. A little throwback for you, right? Wayne Catalano and Julian Leparoux. I mean, we're having like 2008 flashbacks with that jockey trainer combo. But I'm going to take the one in here at a price, 8-1. Number 3, Theismann, I think you've got to respect. This is speed on the grass. Had a win at Keeneland going wire to wire in the fall meet. decent try in the Colonel E.R. Bradley down at Fairgrounds last time, but then backed up out of that spot against Tougher, gets back in. Like we said, most of these horses have stakes running lines very high in their past performances, and now are dropping back into the allowance ranks. Theismann could be effective up near the front. The speed in this race also includes, though, I'd Rather Be Blessed. The 4 and the 7 Nelson Avenue can be up near the pace. That's another reason why I like And the Winner Is, a horse who can close in a race where it sets up for a closer. We didn't talk a lot about how the track played on opening day. Main track was very difficult to kind of give any kind of pattern recognition to, because on opening day Friday, remember, it rained throughout the day and harder at times, and so the track went from different degrees of sloppy and wet. The track was nice on Saturday, so, the two different situations of the races on the dirt. As for the turf, though, the turf, I think, was kind of significant in that we had 5 turf routes run opening weekend, and these are quality horses, right? A lot of them were stakes races, really good company in those races. The 5 turf routes on opening day, the average winner was 5 lengths off the lead after the opening half mile. That is a major, major closer kind of situation there by the numbers. And on the turf, favorites just went 1 for 8 on the turf, with an average winner of just under 8-1. So deep closers, and you can find a price. Well, And the Winner Is 8-1 in the morning line in a race with some speed, trying to get set up, and we'll see if Julian Leparoux can have a flashback and bring this one back to the winner's circle. Again, almost 3.5 years ago now, the winner of the Bourbon Stakes. But And the Winner Is going to be my top choice in there. I'd also use the 3 in the multi-race wagers. I do think Theismann for trainer Peter Urton. It's funny because I handicap these things in different stages of looking up stuff and research. And the last thing I did before coming on the air was check the week 2 stats in some of the previous meets, and noticed that Peter Urton had a really good week 2 last year and had horses aim for these spots. Now, I liked Theismann as a potential shot in here near the front, just for my straight-up handicapping. Now, knowing that, Urton with a little trainer intent, certainly one to consider in there as the pacemaker who could go farthest on the front. The 5 integration is 6-5 in the morning line. 2 starts at Keeneland, and frankly, 3rd in the Maker's Mark Mile 2 years ago, 2nd in that race last year. They're running the Maker's Mark Mile on Friday for $1 million, and integration ain't in it. He's in an allowance race. And so I never really feel great about a horse of high repute kind of taking the easier, low-hanging fruit. Now, trainer Shug McGahee, a conservative trainer, obviously. He's not necessarily going to bring some horse back all the time off of a major layoff and run in a race like the Maker's Mark Mile. So this looks like a stepping stone race for me. Old school trainer Shug McGahee. Now, integration could be good enough to win this race and not be cranked up, but I don't think he's going to be cranked up on Wednesday for sure. Can he win it at 80%? Maybe so, but I'm going to try to beat him in here. I put him in my 3rd spot. 1, 3, 5, and 2, the way I line him up in race number 5, and I'm just going to go 2 deep. And the winner is, and I'm going to take my shot. I think he is the winner from off the pace, and then Theismann was my speed. A lot of times when I like to go 2 deep in a multi-race wager, I want 2 different running styles, because if the race sets up for one, the other horse, if the race sets up one particular way, it would favor one horse. If it sets up another way, speed for one horse, closer for another, you've got both pace styles covered that way when you go 2 deep. If you go 2 deep and take 2 closers, if it's a slow pace, both of your horses are compromised. If you take 2 front runners and it's a fast pace, both of your front runners are compromised. So if you're going to go 2 deep, which isn't a recommended way to go too often because it doubles the cost of your ticket with only one more horse included in the entire sequence. But if you do go 2 deep, I always recommend try to find races where they have divergent running styles. Have yourself covered no matter which way the race goes. You've got one good speed horse. You've got one good closer. That's the way it lines up for me in race number 5. And again, this is one of those swing races in the early and late pick 4 and pick 5, where if we can get through just 2 deep, that's what you want to do. You want to try to narrow those races down as best you can. So that's a look at race number 5. We'll move on to race number 6 as we hit the final 3 races on this card for Wednesday at Keeneland. Day number 3 of 15 coming up at the meet. $3 late pick 3 starts here, and a $3 late pick 3 handled very well opening weekend. So the fans popular and kind of rides the coattails of the success of the $3 Keeneland Turf Pick 3 that we've seen the last several meets here. So you knew it would work at Keeneland, but without the turf racing, will we be able to put together good fields at the back end of the card that people want to jump into? When you look at this program on Wednesday, you got a field of 9 in the 6th. You got 11 of them going in the 7th. And then in race number 8, you've got another big field to close things out with a capacity field of 12. So that's good pick 3 wagering, the $3 Keeneland or the $3 turf pick 3, I want to keep wanting to say Keeneland late pick 3. It's the $3 late pick 3 races 6, 7, and 8. So who's going to win these darn races? I can't say them right, so let's just go straight to the numbers. To the 6th we go, maiden special weights here, mile and a 16th on the main. And look, this is a kind of situation that we've seen these races be pretty chalky in the past. 3-year-old maiden special weights in the spring in routes. Favorites are 19 for 33 in these particular spots, with the average winner 5-2 odds. So huge long shots, not the way to go typically in these 3-year-old maiden special routes like this. Again, 19 of 33 winning favorites, 5-2 average odds. One of the chalkier profiles you're going to see at Keeneland. Again, 3-year-olds in the spring, these maiden specials going long on the dirt. Field of 9 in here in terms of favoritism in this race. It's not so obvious who the favorite's going to be, and the 9 answered prayers, 7-2 in the morning line from Nick Tamaro, but outside post with a short run to the first turn. 16th pole finish line for a horse who deep closed in the career debut, going 7. Ran on the slop the first time, adds blinkers. Too many changes in there for me to take too short of a price. I think this race has a little bit more chaos to it than maybe just a lead pipe favorite kind of situation like we often see in these particular spots. I went to the one in here, Dad's 2 cents. This is a pedigree play. Debuted 6 furlongs on the main at Gulfstream Park and just kind of trotted around back there, out sprinted as the comment, and that's kind of sensical. When you look at this pedigree by Kentucky Derby and Travers winner Street Sense out of Harvey's Little Goyle. She was a really good turf route in there. Won major stakes here at Keeneland and around the east and Midwest. Harvey's Little Goyle, the dam of Dad's 2 shoes. You would expect distance out of this horse and stamina. Maybe on the turf, obviously, you might look. The Street Sense hopefully will make this horse capable on the dirt as the sire. But I think we're going to get some stamina out of the dam side. Trainer Brendan Walsh goes with blinkers on. They get the rail. Tyler Gaffleone rides. Good connection. Sprint the route. I'm going to take my shot in here with the 6, Dad's 2 cents. 5-1 in the morning line. Not wild about the price, but I think they're all going to be sort of clumped in here. I think Nick's morning line is pretty accurate in terms of the lack of spread between these horses. Going to be a lot of horses between 3-1 and 8-1 in this particular spot. Not a lot just completely out the back end at 20, 30-1, and certainly nobody at too short of a price in here. Let's see what the other handicappers did with this race. I didn't have a strong feeling here, but again, I'm going with the pedigree play, the blinkers, the sprint, the route, all that with Dad's 2 cents. That's going to be my pick in here. I thought the 9 obviously is one that, could get some consideration. The 6, Flash of Freedom, is a price that you might want to keep an eye on in here. Got an 85 brisk late pace figure in the start here in the fall. Didn't run as well in the off track at Churchill in November. Adds Lasix now. And so I think this horse, looking at the workout tab, looks like Flash of Freedom has been aimed here at Keeneland for some time for trainer Matthew Sims. And I think with Luan Machado aboard, this is when it could make a little bit of a late run, first time Lasix. So the 6 Flash of Freedom one that I'm considering in the mix as well. As for the other public handicappers here in race number 6, the 9's top choice in here for Scott. Dad's 2 steps, Dad's 2 cents going to be my top pick. The 7's top choice, or 5's top choice in here, East Bay for Tom. He's going for a price with Beckman and Luis Saez in that one. And then Kim's going for a different runner altogether as well. So she's got the 3. She's Tall, That's All. And She's Tall, That's All might be the trend fit in here. This horse comes from Gulfstream, ran a mile plus last time, and Ian Wilkes won 2 races opening week. You look at the trends of this race, the horses coming out of route races, horses coming out of Gulfstream, usually have a little more success than the others. And really, the only horse in the race that fits that, coming out of a mile race or longer at Gulfstream on the dirt, is She's Tall, That's All. So maybe the 3 is the right fit in this particular spot. I want to spread in here. Multi-race wagers, I'm going deep. 1, 9, 6, 3. Even the 4 gives me a little bit of a look in here for the Calumet Farm and Owen Hardy. A couple big brisk late pace figures down at Tampa Bay could fit in this particular spot. So I think race number 6, amongst all the races that I'm talking about, it kind of lock themselves down to 1, 2 horses that I want to get into. Race number 6 is one where I want to get a decent amount of coverage. That starts the $3 late pick 3. We got it right. $3 late pick 3, but I think you've got to use quite a few. So if you're going to dive into that, maybe you have a stronger opinion than I do The early part of the card, I feel good, right? I got 2 key plays. We got swing races early. So I feel good about the front half of the card more so than maybe playing the $3 Keeneland pick 3 here on this Wednesday card. To the 7th we go. Feature race on the card. First level allowance, a mile and a 16th. Gulfstream horses are typically very strong in these races. We've had over 300 of these spring turf route allowances in the past. Gulfstream horses have won 136 of them. The second best is Fairgrounds horses with 30, 136 to 30. If you can find a Gulfstream horse that you like, that's usually the way to go in these particular spots. Number 2, Icona is going to be my choice in here from, you guessed it, Gulfstream Park. So Icona, top choice for myself and Scott. Love You Anyway, the top choice in here for Tom and for Kim. Let's see what they've got. Love You Anyway down on the rail for trainer Rusty Arnold. Arnold had 2 wins opening week. Love You Anyway run twice at Keeneland. Good third place finish here in Allowance Company in the fall meet. Last spring broke the maiden on the turf course. Likes the course. Rusty's horses are running well. No surprise, number 1, Love You Anyway. Makes a lot of sense coming off the race at Tampa. Icona comes off the win at Gulfstream last time out. Was bet to the favorite for good connections here. Brendan Walsh, Tyler Gaffleon. You get good posts out of the 1 and the 2 in a field of 11. I wouldn't get too creative in this particular spot, especially if you're playing the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Again, horses won opening weekend from 5 lengths off the pace in the route races on the turf. You're getting a big-time closer for sure in the 2, Icona. And Love You Anyway probably wants to come from off the pace, but probably the 1 gets first run. 1 would be in front of the 2, probably going down the backstretch. The 2 will be closing from deeper, if you will. That's a look at race number 7. I thought the 5 is another shot in here. Princess Altitude, a horse, or Princess Attitude, who's run well over the turf course here at Keeneland. And maybe a look to the 11 Fire Moon, but I don't like that 4-1 morning line. First time coming off the dirt to the first time to the turf. The Justifies do run pretty well over the turf course here at Keeneland over the years. But of the 330 plus allowance races we've had, route allowance races and spring meets in the past, only 29 of them were won by horses coming out of dirt prep. So less than 1 out of 10 are won by horses coming off the dirt like Fire Moon tries. So from a difficult post 11, knowing that less than 10% of the races are won by horses going dirt to turf, I took a shot to keep Fire Moon off my ticket. I got a 2, 1, 5, and 11 just barely in my mix as the 4th choice being the 11 horse. Let's go to the final race on this card for Wednesday. The Toyota Super High 5 is in play here. And it's also our final key play of the day. This will be in race number 8. Starter Allowance Company in here. We've had 41 spring starter allowance sprints. Favorites have won 17 of them, so just over a third. 3-1 average winner. These are not races where we get big prices. Starter allowance races are pretty well picked out by the public. In fact, in the 41 that we've seen, spring starter allowance races in the sprints, 41 of them, only 1 winner has been over 8-1 odds. So don't look for huge bombs in these kind of races. They kind of settle themselves out. Sharon's Beach, the 8, is the morning line favorite. I thought that horse had a decent shot coming in from Santa Anita off a couple good efforts for Jonathan Thomas. High percentage trainer there, had a good winter out at Santa Anita. This one by Omaha Beach, bred to handle the dirt, and comes off the sprint races at Santa Anita that should be pretty effective. And on speed figures, look pretty strong, Sharon's Beach. But I thought the 1, General Graham, was a horse that I kind of wanted to get into because I think this horse can go to the front. There's a lot of route horses turning back in this 6 furlong race. They've got the rail. It's Eddie Keneally and Jose Ortiz, and horse was bit to the favorite in the career debut down at Fairgrounds. Won off by 4 lengths that day, showed some decent speed in a fast time. There's just not a lot of early sprint speed in this particular race. A lot of horses are shortening the trip. They may have showed speed at longer races, but there's not a lot of 6 furlong speed in this race. In fact, to me, the 6 furlong dirt speed in this race are the top 2 choices, General Graham and Sharon's Beach. I think those 2 have the potential to run 1-2 throughout in here. Maybe the 8, Sharon's Beach, doesn't want to go by, and we can kind of pull a little minor upset in here. But I'm not going to get any deeper than the 1 and the 8 in this particular spot. The 4, Hygo, going to be my 3rd choice on the cutback and trip. I just don't think there's enough speed in this race that's going to come back to the route-type horses in here. So give me General Graham on top. That's also the top choice in there for Scott, picked 2nd by Kim. Hygo, the 4, picked on top. My 3rd choice picked on top by Tom. 1, 8, and 4, the way we'll wrap it up. Hopefully we can get some speed to pop there in the finale. If you're looking at the multi-race bets, I would go too deep in there in the nightcap, 1 and 8. But again, you've got 2 horses. I would suggest 2 horses, but they both have the same running style, right? And so if it doesn't set up for General Graham, it won't set up for Sharon's Beach. If those two are battling too hard, they knock each other out. If a third horse gets up into there and battles with them, we could have a real speed duel. So I wouldn't go too deep. I would pick one of the two and settle on a single. If you're playing multi-race wagers here, I don't think it's worth doubling the cost of your ticket, especially when we have, what race was it, the 6th, I believe, where we had a leg where we want to use about 5-6 horses, especially if you're in a $3 late pick 3. I don't think doubling the cost of the ticket by taking 2 speed horses is the way to go. I like General Graham better in this particular spot. You got the Ortiz brothers, Jose and Irad. They typically don't go after each other hard on the front end. They've got the 2 speeds in this race. If Jose gets the lead on General Graham and Irad doesn't attack him aggressively, maybe the one just doesn't turn back. And that's kind of the way I'm looking at it to pull the upset in the nightcap. So give me General Graham, the one. I don't think we're going to get 6-1, but I don't think it's going to be a huge knockdown in price. This could be a horse who's in the 4-1, 9-2 range and be in the ballpark of that 6-1. But I don't think the horse will end up favored with the other runners in this particular spot. So that's going to wrap up the action for Handicapping Wednesday's card. 8 races in the book. I'll be back tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, to take a look at the Thursday racing program. You have a minute. Let's take a look at a couple stakes lineups for you coming up later this week. On Friday at Keeneland, it's the Maker's Mark Mile. This race on Friday's program will be race number 9 on the card. The Maker's Mark Mile, a $650,000 grade 1. And we've got a huge field of 13, including a Breeders' Cup champion in here. Notable Speech, winner of last year's Breeders' Cup Mile, makes the return to racing at age 5. Be the first start at Keeneland for Notable Speech. Maybe back here in the fall for the Breeders' Cup Mile title defense. Charlie Appleby trains William Buick, the international star in the ride. Of course, those two teamed up to win this race with Master of the Seas 2 years ago in the Maker's Mark Mile. Notable Speech, the headliner in the Maker's Mark Mile, coming up on Friday. One of 2, not just one, but 2 Breeders' Cup champions racing at Keeneland on Friday, because Cy Fair, the winner of last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, she's back in the Limestone Stakes on the undercard on Friday. So can't wait to see 2 Breeders' Cup champions in action at Keeneland before we even get to the weekend. That's on the Friday card again. Maker's Mark Mile, $650,000 feature on Friday. Big races for the weekend. The Lexington Stakes for the 3-year-old colts. And then the Jenny Wiley, grade 1 on the turf in the filly and mare division, filly and mare turf division. And Chad Brown has owned this race over the years. We'll see if he can get back on the winning end in this one. I think Brown had won 5 in a row in this race and finally got beat last year. We'll see if Brown gets back on the winning end. He's won 6 times in this race. He'll have the 10 Suggesta amongst the field, as well as the 5 Dynamic Pricing. Lush Lips back in action. Of course, we saw her win stakes, the QE2 here last fall as a 3-year-old. She'll take on the 4-year-old and older division here, and Lush Lips tries to win another grade 1 at Keeneland when she takes part in the Jenny Wiley on Saturday. Really good-looking group. We will talk about those races a lot more coming up later in the week. Be sure to join us on the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast, as we mentioned, each and every night, 8:30 Eastern, before the next day's races. So we've got 5 in a row coming up. First of 5 are coming to the wire here on this Tuesday night, but we'll be with you the rest of the week to preview all the way through Saturday night when we preview the Sunday card. If you'd like to get handicapping information sent to your email inbox from me, be sure to sign up for the free publishing software Substack, jeremyplonk.substack.com, and I'll send you my handicapping insights for each and every Keeneland race day. After the scratches and changes are announced in the morning, this typically the email will go out between 11 and noon Eastern with all the updated and last minute information, any changes that we have to make based on the conditions, based on scratches, final thoughts as we go to post for a 1 o'clock start each racing day at Keeneland. Also in that Substack, you get my handicapping information from tracks around the country and around the calendar, not just for Keeneland, but it also involves Triple Crown season, Breeders' Cup season, major stakes picks throughout the course of the year. It's free. Sign up for it, jeremyplonk.substack.com. On behalf of everybody with Keeneland and the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund, I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now. Have a great night, everybody. We will talk to you tomorrow.